The stars dimmed when it arrived. Far beyond human space, in a dead system where no sun had burned for 1 billion years, the gods opened a gate. It was not made of light or metal. It was made of something older, woven time, dark energy, forgotten, science. And from that gate, something stepped through. It had no name. Not anymore. The gods had erased it from history for a reason. It moved without ships. It spoke without sound. It didn't belong to this galaxy or any galaxy. It had once devoured entire star systems. Its mind was not a single voice, but a swarm of thoughts, a hive wrapped in skin. The Creel called it the Endborn. The Ashari called it the Hollow. The Zentaur refused to name it at all. The gods didn't worship it. They feared it. But now they had no choice. We will lose this war. The Ajia Creel High Mind said, unless we give the galaxy something worse than the Vadra. So they sent it toward human space. Meanwhile, on Earth, the changes continued. Kayla Mendez was no longer just a pilot. She could move without sound, sense danger before it came, and read enemy patterns as if watching a slow video. Other enhanced. Soldiers joined her. They called themselves the Remembered. Not Vadra, not human. Something in between. Dr. Liam Torres recorded their progress, but also noticed strange behaviors. The enhanced soldiers stopped sleeping. Their eyes glowed faintly. Some began speaking in the old Vadra tongue in their dreams. One even built a device using tech that didn't exist yet. Something pulled from memory, not invention. It's not evolution, Torres whispered. It's return. Raina Voss received word of another human colony gone dark. She took the Pathfinder there. What she found was different this time. No signs of alien attack, no laser burns, no wreckage, just stillness. Every person gone, every door open, every screen flashing the same message. It watches. Back on the ship, the AI picked up strange readings from deep space, a wave of energy, unnatural, silent, but massive. When Torres ran it through the Vadra archive, one word appeared: Devourer. Soon after, a scout ship sent into the wave didn't return, but its pilot did. She arrived in a life pod, eyes wide, skin pale, heartbeat slow. She had one sentence written across her flight suit in her own blood. They fed it our minds. The warning was clear. This was not war. This was erasure. The creature the gods had summoned didn't just kill. It consumed thought, identity, memory. It erased species from existence, and it was heading straight for Earth. Raina called an emergency meeting of all surviving human military leaders. Many were afraid. Some wanted to run. Others demanded to launch all forces at once. But Raina said, only one thing. If we run, it will find us. If we fight like humans, we lose. We need to fight like what we really are. The Remembered were deployed. Not in fleets, but in cells. Silent, invisible, fast. They moved through dark space, spreading ancient codes into the stars, beacons, traps, weapons of the Vadra that had not been used in 1,000,000 years. The stars responded, machines buried inside asteroid belts activated, moons split open, revealing weapons as big as cities. The galaxy remembered, and so did the creature. When it arrived near the edge of human space, it paused, not because it feared, but because it recognized. The stars here smelled like old enemies. The silence here was familiar, but it kept moving. The Pathfinder, now fully upgraded with Vadra systems, led the charge. The first clash happened above, a gas giant. The creature didn't use weapons, it used its presence. Ships lost control, pilots screamed in agony, AI systems melted down, but Kayla was waiting. She flew straight into the storm, eyes burning, body glowing with strange light. The creature reached for her mind and found only fire. She screamed words in Vadra, and stars bent around her. Others followed. It wasn't a battle. It was history, fighting history, and for the first time in 1,000,000 years, the creature bled. Reyna watched from the bridge as a piece of the creature fell into the gas giant, burning as it went. She didn't smile. This wasn't victory. This was just the beginning. The gods had summoned a monster. But they forgot one thing. You don't call a nightmare to fight another nightmare, because nightmares don't obey. The creature turned, not toward Earth, but toward the gods. The remembered had wounded it, and now it remembered them too. It knew where they lived, and it was angry. Reyna looked at the stars. "We're not just at war," she said. "We're in the middle of a storm the gods created." Dr. Torres nodded. "And now they can't control it. Then we'll use it," Reyna said coldly. "Just like they used us." She sent a message to all human fleets. "Let the gods feel fear, just like we did." And far, far away the gods began to prepare their final defense, because now the weapon had turned on the hand that raised it, and humanity was still standing. The stars burned with silence. The monster that the gods had called, the ancient creature of hunger and darkness, was no longer chasing humans. It had turned. It was heading toward the gods themselves. They had lost control. The Creel, Ashari, and Zentar each began building walls of fire and steel around their core systems. Their fleets, once feared across the galaxy, now pulled back. Even gods could be afraid. In the Ashari capital, High Priest Avara watched the skies, whispering prayers to machines that no longer answered. The seer, who had warned them before now, sat silent, her eyes black, her voice gone. "It knows us," she had said before she collapsed. "It remembers the gods who locked it away." The gods had hoped to crush humanity with fear. Instead, they had released something far worse. And humanity stood ready. Captain Reyna Voss had changed. The old soldier who once followed orders now gave none. She moved with calm, controlled power. Her words were fewer, her presence stronger. She didn't just lead the fleet. She was its center. The remembered had grown. There were now over 200 of them. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, all enhanced. Their minds burned with memory, old and new. They called themselves the Echo of Vadra. And they remembered everything. The Pathfinder met with other Earth ships at the edge of Creel space. Reyna had made her choice. "We're not waiting anymore," she told her commanders. "We strike, now. We burn their lies down to the stars." Some were afraid. The Creel still had the largest fleet in the galaxy, but fear no longer ruled humans. The assault began. 12 Earth fleets moved like lightning. Vadra-built weapons pierced through shields the Creel thought unbreakable. Human ships danced through minefields and laser storms like they had been born in them. Reyna led from the front. Her ship glowed with power. The enemy fired everything they had, but it was like trying to stop a tide with your hands. On the third day, the Creel homeworld fell, not to fire, to silence. Humans didn't destroy their cities. They shut them down. A signal, pure Vadra code, sent through the atmosphere made every Creel AI shut off. Their defenses died. Their skies went dark. The Creel surrendered. Reyna said only one thing. "Now you know what fear tastes like." Meanwhile, the monster reached the Zentar systems. There were no battles, no escapes, no survivors. It did not burn planets. It erased them, like they never existed. The gods panicked. They sent a signal across the galaxy. One word repeated again and again, "Help!" But no one answered, because the humans had heard that cry before, from their colonies, from their people, and the gods had stayed silent. Now it was their turn to be alone. But Reyna wasn't done. Her fleet turned toward the Ashari. They had led the attack on Earth. They had killed without reason. They had laughed at human fear. Now they faced something far worse. The echo of Vaudra landed on the Ashari capital moon. No nukes, no missiles, just 20 hybrid soldiers. Kayla Mendez led them. They walked through walls. They turned Ashari guns into dust. They hacked the planet's core systems with a thought. Within hours, the Ashari surrendered. But Kayla looked into the eyes of their leader and saw no understanding, only pride, only hate. So she showed them, 1 touch, 1 second, and the Ashari leader saw what the Vaudra had been, what humans were becoming, what the gods had tried to bury. He screamed and begged. Kayla walked away in silence. Reyna met with the Ashari leaders. She gave them a choice, kneel or disappear. They kneeled. The gods were falling, one by one. But the war was not over, because the monster was still out there, and it was growing. Dr. Liam Torres had studied its movements. It didn't just destroy planets. It fed on history, culture, memory. It left behind nothing. Even light changed around the space it passed through. Reyna understood what had to be done. "We can't kill it with weapons," she said. "We have to remind it who it really is." Using Vaudra tech, she found old records, ancient signals from the time before even the Vaudra fell. Messages written by beings who had once tried to reason with the creature. Buried deep in human DNA was one of those signals. It was part of the memory the Vaudra had left behind. Kayla and the Echo gathered at the edge of space. There, in a place without stars, they began broadcasting the message, not in words, in feeling, in memory. The creature heard it and paused. For the first time in millions of years, it stopped. Reyna watched. "It remembers," she said. "It remembers the war, the gods, the betrayal." Dr. Torres looked at her. "Does it remember mercy?" "No," she said. "But maybe it remembers pain." And as the creature began to turn, its shape shifting, slowing, cracking, Reyna gave the order. "We end this. Not with fire, with truth." And humanity moved toward the final chapter, because the gods were not the last challenge. The real war had always been with themselves. And now, the Vaudra would decide what kind of monsters they wanted to be. In the year 2472, deep in the quiet corners of the Milky Way, a strange signal was heard. It was not a voice, not a cry, not even a message. It was just a sound, a low vibrating tone that repeated every 7 hours. The signal came from a place called Sector Null, an empty zone where no star shined and no ship dared to go. For centuries, alien races avoided it like a graveyard. They said it was cursed. They said it was where the gods buried something long ago. But humans, as always, were curious. The United Earth Space Command sent a small exploration team to investigate. The ship was called the Pathfinder, and its crew of 10 brave explorers had one job: find the source of the signal. Captain Reyna Voss led the mission. She was known for her fearless nature and sharp instincts. As the Pathfinder entered Sector Null, all systems flickered. Lights dimmed. The crew felt a pressure in their heads like something was watching. No stars could be seen. Only blackness. Then, out of the darkness, they saw it. A massive alien structure, floating silently. It was old, ancient beyond imagination, covered in metal vines, glowing with a dull blue light. The signal was coming from there. They docked the ship and stepped inside. The air was thick, cold, still, as if time itself had stopped. Inside they found a chamber filled with strange symbols. On the walls were carvings of creatures, tall, shadow-like beings with glowing eyes. Below the carvings there was a large circular device, slowly spinning and humming with energy. It was clear. This was a warning system. A voice suddenly played. From nowhere. Not in words, but in images sent directly into their minds. A story. A long time ago, before even the gods of the stars, there was a species so powerful, so unstoppable, that the rest of the universe lived in fear. They conquered galaxies. They burned empires. They were not evil. They were something worse. They were unstoppable. And then they vanished. Not killed, not defeated. Just gone. And now someone had activated the beacon. The humans looked at each other. "What species?" Reyna asked aloud, though no one answered. The device glowed brighter. The walls began to shake. Something had been triggered. "We need to leave," said Dr. Liam Torres, the science officer. But it was too late. The signal changed. It was no longer a warning. It was a call. Far away, in deep parts of the galaxy, ancient beings opened their eyes. The signal had reached them. The gods, creatures so advanced they were worshipped by lesser species, felt fear. Real fear. One of them spoke in a hidden chamber, "Who dares wake them?" Another answered, "No one. They are not awake, yet, but the humans have touched the lock." Back on the Pathfinder, the crew escaped the alien structure just in time. It began to collapse, folding into itself like a dying star. The signal stopped, but something else had started. As the ship left Sector Null, Captain Reyna looked at the black void on her screen. "We were never supposed to find that," she whispered. Dr. Torres studied the data. "Captain, I ran a genetic scan on the carvings we saw. The beings on the wall." He paused, unsure if he should continue. "Their DNA. It matches human DNA, partially. Only a small percentage, but it's there." Reyna stared at him. "Are you saying we're related to them?" "I'm saying," he replied, "we might be what's left of them." Silence filled the ship. Then, from the communication console, a soft whisper played. No one had touched it. No one had received a message. But it was there, in the same voice from the alien chamber. "They are coming." The crew froze. That message was not from the past. It was now. The ship jumped to hyperspace and raced back toward Earth, carrying with it a dark secret. The signal had stopped. Yes. But the ripple it caused was only beginning to spread. Somewhere in the galaxy, old beings began to move. Ships hidden for eons powered up. Silent machines turned back on. Eyes opened in the dark. And across the stars, every major alien civilization heard the same signal and said the same word in fear. Vadra. But the humans had never heard that word before. Not yet. The Pathfinder returned to Earth in silence. Its crew was alive. But they were changed. The things they had seen in Sector Null could not be forgotten. Captain Reyna Voss stood before the High Council, reporting the mission details. She spoke clearly, but with caution. Some things she left out. Some things were too strange to explain. Back on Earth, scientists studied the data collected from the alien structure. Images from the carvings, scans of the beacon, and the strange DNA fragment matching humans. It was impossible to deny. Humans shared some genetic code with the ancient beings in the carvings. But who were they? At the same time, across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. The signal had been received by more than just humans. Advanced alien races, the Creel, the Ashari, the Zentar, started watching Earth closely. The name Vodra returned from ancient records. Many had believed it to be a myth, a story told to scare younglings. But the word was real, and it brought fear. The Ashari High Scholar, a creature over 900 years old, read from a forbidden scroll. The Vodra do not die. They vanish, and when they return, the stars burn. The scroll was sealed again, as if speaking the name would invite destruction. Back on Earth, Dr. Liam Torres led a secret team to study the DNA match. They compared it to every known species in the galaxy. Only humans shared the markers. Not even ancient hybrid species came close. A strange thought began to form in their minds. What if humans were not descendants of the Vadra, but survivors? Meanwhile, the United Earth Space Command found something else. A broken satellite from the old Mars colony had been activated during the beacon's pulse. Inside its memory, a strange map appeared. It showed star systems long erased from modern charts. At the center of the map was a red circle with one word written in a dead alien language. The translator decoded it. Origin. Captain Reyna received the map. "We need to find out what's out there," she said. The council was divided. Some wanted to hide, fearing attention from the gods. Others believed humanity needed to know the truth. Reyna decided for them. The Pathfinder would launch a second mission, this time deeper into the unknown. As they traveled through uncharted space, strange things happened. The ship's AI began to receive messages in unknown code. The crew had dreams, vivid and terrifying, about planets they had never seen and battles they had never fought. One crew member, Ensign Patel, woke up screaming in a forgotten language. He had never spoken it before. Dr. Torres believed something had been awakened inside them. Memory in the blood, he called it. Somehow, the beacon had triggered old data buried in their DNA, memories from a time before history. It wasn't just science anymore. It was something deeper, something alive. When they reached the location marked Origin, they found ruins floating in space, broken pieces of a once massive ring world, a shattered city that had once circled a star, metal towers miles high, now drifting, a quiet graveyard. Inside one structure, they found a functioning archive, strange crystals that played holograms when touched. The holograms told the story of the Vadra. They had ruled for millions of years, long before the gods of the current galaxy. Their empire was not built on peace, but on fear. They were masters of war, technology, and biology. They did not negotiate. They conquered. And their greatest weapon was not machines, but themselves. They had changed their bodies, enhanced their minds. They became something more than life. The Vadra believed they were eternal. But something went wrong. A civil war, a rebellion, a choice. Some of them wanted to end the bloodshed. A few escaped, ran far to the edges of the galaxy. They buried their history, erased their name, and made a new beginning. Over thousands of years, they forgot who they were. They became human. Captain Reyna watched the hologram in silence. "We are the lost Vadra," she said quietly. No one answered. There was nothing to say. Suddenly, a proximity alarm echoed through the ship. A fleet was approaching. Unknown ships, not on any registry, sleek, black, and deadly. The crew braced for combat, but the ships didn't fire. Instead, a message came through. One word. "Surrender," Reyna responded. "Who are you?" The voice that answered was calm and cold. "You have broken the silence. You carry the blood. The gods do not forgive. Prepare to be erased." Then, the ships vanished. Just like that, no trace. A warning, not an attack. Dr. Torres looked at Reyna. "They know what we are now." "Yes," Reyna replied, "and they're afraid." Back on Earth, governments began to panic. The truth was no longer a theory. Humanity's place in the universe had changed forever. They were not the weak newcomers anymore. They were the forgotten kings of destruction, and the gods wanted them gone. But humanity had already survived extinction once, and this time they would not run. This time they would remember who they were. This time they would fight. The message had been sent. The gods knew. And now, they reacted. In the dark corners of the galaxy, In places where even light refused to go, the oldest empires of the stars woke from their long silence. The Creel Dominion, the Ashari Conclave, and the Zentar Hierarchy, three of the most powerful alien civilizations, held a secret meeting. They were not friends. In truth, they hated each other. But the return of the Vadra blood changed everything. They had seen what happened last. Time. Millions of years ago, the Vadra ruled without mercy. The gods were younger then, less wise, more afraid. They had fought the Vadra and lost, again and again. The only reason they survived was because the Vadra disappeared. No one knew why. No one cared. The important thing was, they were gone. But now, humans had awakened something. And the DNA didn't lie. In a golden hall floating above a dying sun, the Creel leader, High Mind Sovar, spoke slowly to the others. The humans must be erased, before they remember who they are. His voice was deep and dry, like stone cracking under pressure. The Ashari responded, "Not yet. If we strike now, the galaxy will see. We must move carefully, quietly." But the Zentar disagreed. They found the beacon. They touched the relics. They saw the memories. There is no more time. Within hours, a plan was made. Back on Earth, Captain Raina Voss sat in a dark room, reading a new report. Small colonies along the edge of human space had gone silent. No distress signals. No survivors. Just silence. The United Earth Defense Network confirmed it. Alien fleets had passed through those systems. No warnings, no mercy. "They're testing us," Raina said. "Trying to see how strong we are." Dr. Liam Torres stood beside her. "We need to fight back." "Not yet," she replied. "We need to understand what we are first." But the aliens didn't wait. A large Creel battle group appeared near Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Without warning, they launched an attack on the defense station there. The humans fought back, but the station was destroyed within minutes. Thousands died. It was Earth's first real war in over 100 years, the humans answered. A fleet of 12 Earth ships jumped into Creel space and destroyed one of their weapon platforms. It was a clear message. We will not be silent. And then, something happened no one expected. During a battle near the border of Ashari space, a human pilot named Kayla Mendez touched a damaged alien artifact left floating in space. Her ship lit up with energy. The engines doubled in speed. Her mind became clear, like she could feel every movement in the fight before it happened. She destroyed 7 enemy ships in under 1 minute. When she landed, her blood test showed strange results. Her cells had changed. Faster healing, sharper thinking, increased reflexes. It was not normal. It was Vadra. Dr. Torres explained it to the council. "It's inside us," he said. "The potential. Something is waking it up. The more pressure we face, the more it grows. We're evolving. Fast." The leaders didn't know what to think. Some were afraid. Others were excited. A few wanted to study it further. But Raina stood up and said, "It doesn't matter what we want. The gods are already coming." In secret, she launched a mission to an old research facility on Europa, a frozen moon of Jupiter. There, decades ago, scientists had experimented with human enhancements, but the project was shut down. Now, they reopened it. Volunteers stepped forward. They wanted the Vadra part of them unlocked. Not all survived. Some lost their minds. Others became more than human. The first Vadra hybrid soldier was born, and the timing could not have been better. Days later, a massive Ashari fleet appeared in Earth's sky. More than 100 ships, weapons charged, shields glowing. They sent a message. "Surrender, Earth. We will spare the weak." Captain Reyna stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder, staring at the screen. "We're done running." The Earth. Fleet rose to meet the threat. 50 ships, half the enemy's number, but carrying new Vadra tech. Weapons built using knowledge from the ruins. Armor stronger than any before, engines faster, smarter AIs. The battle over Earth began. For hours, explosions filled the sky. Ships broke apart, crews died. But something strange happened. As the fight went on, the human ships began to fight better, like they were adapting, learning, predicting. Kayla Mendez flew at the front, her eyes glowing faintly, moving like a storm through the enemy lines. Behind her, a dozen Vadra hybrid soldiers fought with perfect timing as if they were one mind. In the end, the Ashari retreated, beaten, shocked, and afraid. They had expected humans to break. Instead, they saw something else, something ancient. After the battle, Reyna spoke to the Earth Council. "The gods called us weak, but we carry the blood of a forgotten empire. We didn't choose this, but we won't back down." The galaxy watched, and far, far away, in a place no human had ever been, the gods gathered again. But this time, they were not speaking of erasure. They were speaking of war. The Vadra were returning, and this time they remembered. Space was quiet again, but only on the surface. The battle above Earth had ended with victory, but everyone knew it was just the beginning. Humanity had awakened something deep inside themselves, something powerful and dangerous. Captain Reyna. Voss stood alone in her quarters, watching the stars through the window. The enemy had pulled back, but she could feel it. They were watching, waiting, planning. She didn't fear them. What she feared now was the truth about her own kind. Doctor. Liam Torres had continued his research on the strange changes seen in pilot Kayla Mendez and the other enhanced soldiers. What he discovered made his hands shake. The more they were exposed to Vadra technology, the more their minds changed. Not just smarter, not just faster, but darker. Something old was rising inside them. He ran test after test. One night, while scanning Kayla's neural activity, he saw something impossible, flashes of memory. Not from her life, from somewhere else, from someone else. In one vision, she stood on a burning world surrounded by machines of war. In another, she looked down at kneeling alien leaders, begging for mercy. Dr. Torres showed the results to Reyna. "These aren't just dreams," he said. "They're memories, buried in our DNA. The Vadra didn't just rule the stars. They lived through us. Their blood, their minds, they're still inside us." Reyna stared at the screen. "So we're becoming them?" "No," Torres replied quietly. "We already are." Kayla, the enhanced pilot, began to change. She grew distant, her voice colder, her reactions faster. She no longer smiled. During one mission, she disobeyed direct orders and destroyed an alien vessel trying to escape. It hadn't fired. It was running. Reyna called her in. "Why did you kill them?" Kayla looked her in the eyes. "They would have returned with reinforcements. I ended the war early." "That wasn't your call." Kayla didn't flinch. "The Vadra don't ask permission. They survive." Reyna felt a chill. This was no longer just war. It was transformation, and it was spreading. Across human space, more volunteers stepped forward to unlock their Vadra potential. Some succeeded. Some died. Some went missing. In one isolated case, a subject named Rafe disappeared during testing. He was later found on a moon base, standing in the middle of a destroyed lab. No memory, no emotion, just one phrase written on the wall in blood. The blood remembers. The United Earth Council began to worry. This power came at a price. The E. Question wasn't if humans would become the Vadra again. The question was, should they? Reyna was invited to a secret council meeting. Arguments broke out. Some leaders wanted to shut down the enhancement program. Others believed it was the only way to survive the coming war. Reyna listened in silence. Then she stood. "We don't get to choose what we are anymore," she said. "The gods already made their choice. If we don't rise, we fall." Silence followed. Meanwhile, the gods had not stopped watching. In the Ashari capital, a hidden room lit with pale blue fire showed visions of Earth. The gods had placed a seer there, a being who could see fragments of the future. What she saw now terrified. I see them walking through fire," she whispered. "Not burned, not broken, victorious," one god snarled. "Then we must strike now, while they're still confused." But the seer shook her head. "It's too late. They have remembered who they are, and they have no fear left." The gods knew they couldn't defeat a full return of the Vajra. So, they turned to an ancient option, something forbidden even to them. A weapon from another galaxy. A creature from outside time, and they made contact. Back on Earth, Reyna led a team to a hidden Vodra temple recently discovered beneath the surface of Mars. As they stepped inside, they found walls covered in glowing script, moving like water. One soldier touched it and dropped, screaming. His mind was flooded with thousands of lives, thousands of deaths. Reyna touched the wall, too. In an instant, she saw everything. She saw the birth of the Vajra on a shattered world of storms. She saw their rise, planet after planet falling under their control. She saw the moment they decided to erase the gods. She saw betrayal. She saw the civil war. And then she saw a group of them escape, hide, change, become human. She collapsed, gasping for air. Dr. Torres helped her up. "What did you see?" "Us," she said. "I saw what we were, what we did. And now I understand why they fear us." The blood held memories, and those memories were starting to wake. Every human had it, dormant, sleeping deep inside. Some would never change, others would become monsters, but some would become legends. As the Pathfinder left Mars, Reyna stood on the bridge. The stars looked different now, not distant, not foreign. They looked like home. And far beyond the edge of known space, something moved, not alien, not Vajra. Something else. Something older. The gods had made a deal, but they would soon learn, you don't fight the Vajra with monsters, because the Vajra were monsters. And now, the monsters were waking up. The galaxy held its breath. The monster the gods had summoned, the one that devoured memory and erased worlds, had paused. Not because it was weak, but because it remembered. The signal from the echo of Vajra had reached it. Ancient words. Ancient. Pain. It had been made for war. It had been betrayed by its creators. Now, it remembered those creators. And they were the gods. Captain Reyna Voss stood at the front of the command deck on the Pathfinder, her face calm, but her heart heavy. The end was near. Not just the end of war, but the end of lies. The end of old powers. The end of what people believed they were. Kayla Mendez, now the strongest of the remembered, stood beside her. Her eyes were no longer just human. They carried stars in them. Her voice echoed slightly when she spoke. "It knows us now," she said. "It sees us not as prey, but as kin." Reyna nodded. "Then we finish this. Not by running, not by destroying. We finish it by telling the truth." A final meeting of the gods was called. Not in their golden cities or holy chambers, but in a quiet, abandoned station near the galactic core. The Creel, the Ashari, and the few Zentar that had survived came together, and Reyna arrived. Not alone. She brought the echo of Vajra. She brought history. She brought truth. "You wanted us gone," Reyna said, facing them. You feared what we might become, but the real danger was never us. It was your arrogance, the Creel high mind hissed. You're waking monsters. No, Kayla answered, softly. We are the monsters, and we remember what you did. Reyna lifted a small cube. Inside it flickered the memory code, Vadra records hidden in human DNA. Proof of everything, the experiments, the war, the exile. You erased our past, Reyna said. Now we erase your power, the gods begged. They offered peace, alliance, even surrender. But it was too late. The monster had arrived. It did not speak. It did not threaten. It simply hovered above the meeting place, larger than a moon, casting a shadow that covered the stars. And it waited. Kayla walked outside the station into the vacuum of space, her suit glowing with Vadra energy. She faced the creature. Then she reached out, mind to mind. She showed it Earth. She showed it pain, love, war, music, birth, betrayal, hope. She showed it what humans had become, and then she showed it what the gods had done. The creature roared, not with sound, but with memory. A shockwave of emotion rippled through the station. The gods fell to their knees, their minds filled with images of what they had hidden. They saw the first Vadra child born on Earth. They saw the gods burn planets to bury their mistake. They saw themselves as they truly were. Not protectors, but tyrants. And the creature turned on them. It did not destroy them. It erased them. In seconds, the station was empty of gods. Only humanity remained. Reyna and Kayla floated in silence, watching the monster slowly fade into the stars. It had fed on memory, and now, with its truth complete, it no longer needed to exist. It dissolved like dust, scattered across space. Reyna whispered, "It wasn't a weapon. It was a record." Kayla nodded. A final story. One last lesson. The galaxy was quiet again, but not broken. Earth rebuilt. The other human colonies came together under a new banner, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as something new. The remembered did not take power. They became guides, teachers, protectors. Not all humans chose the Vadra path, but all understood it now. Dr. Liam Torres released the full Vadra archive to the public. Every secret, every war, every truth, because hiding the past had created monsters. Remembering, it could stop them. Years later, children would ask their parents, "What happened to the gods?" And they would say, "They forgot who we were." The stars grew brighter. Ships traveled farther. No alien species challenged Earth again, not out of fear, but out of respect. Because the message had been sent. Humanity was not weak. Humanity had not forgotten. Humanity had become what the gods feared most. Not killers, not monsters. The truth, and truth, once awakened, cannot be buried. At the edge of the galaxy, in a small station orbiting a blue star, Reyna Voss stood alone. Her war was over, her mission complete. Kayla joined her, standing quietly. "What now?" Kayla asked. Reyna looked at the stars. "Now we explore. Not as humans, not as Vadra." She smiled. As something new. And together, they stepped into the light of a future that no god could ever shape again. Because in the end, it was never about power. It was about memory, and we remembered everything.